Hello and welcome to Varsity Sports Live. I'm Kelly Stewart, joined by Jason Andera. I'm actually filling in today, so what am I even saying? But Jandy, lots of exciting high school football action this week in South Dakota. They wrapped up the regular season. North Dakota still has one more day
of regular games in one class.
Yes.
But for the most part, people are either into their playoffs or have wrapped up their regular season looking forward to the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And the unique thing about this Friday night is it's the only Friday night of the entire year where there are actually no games going on in North or South Dakota.
Oh, wow.
But we are still here.
We're here
to give you the analysis that you need to get ready for the playoffs.
These are the Friday night lights in studio.
That's right.
That's all we got. All right, well, we are joined by Jody Norstedt up in North Dakota. And
you said there was no games on Friday, so I was taking a nap.
It's like, are you ready? Oh, my goodness.
Well, guys, you know, coming into this week, we knew West Fargo was going to be the top seed in the East. We knew Century was the top seed in the West. The only thing we didn't know about the 3A playoff bracket was who the 2 seed and the 3 seed would be in the East. Luckily, that was all decided in one game on Wednesday night. Let's take a look. West Fargo Cheyenne hosting Fargo South. The winner gets the 2 seed, and a home playoff game with Minot. The loser heads to Bismarck High. This game lived up to the hype, guys. After a 4th down stop by Cheyenne on South's first possession, they give it right back. Victor Isaac punches the ball out from Jason Gallrap, and South recovers. A big momentum swing early in the favor of the road team. The Bruins capitalize. Isaac up the gut from 3 yards out, gives South the early lead at 7-zip. The Mustangs answer on the very next possession. Nathan Goldaddy with the tough man run, spinning and running through tackles. He gets down to the 1-yard line, and they call his number again. Number 5 is in for 6 points. And with the extra point, Cheyenne ties the game at 7 apiece. We had a lot of great runs in this game. Early in the second, it's Isaac again. He left last week's game with an injury. He looked fine in this one, steamrolling his way in, making it 14-7 Bruins at half. The Mustangs didn't pass often, but when they did, it's pretty darn effective. Here, Parker Sander finds Zach Westfall on the sideline to start the third on a high note. Gallrap finishes the drive. He follows his blockers and scores on the 5-yard run. That ties the game at 14-all. Mustangs get the ball back and give it right back to Gallrap. Check out this beastly run. The senior goes over 1,000 yards rushing on the season. The second straight year he's done that. And then on 3rd and 1 from the 24, it's Sander through the air again. This time he finds Caden Jastrom for the score. The Mustangs take a 21-14 lead going into the 4th quarter. Boy, that passing game can really be a threat in the playoffs. After a turnover on downs by each team, the Bruins get it back. On 4th and 12, Tanner DuBois to Tanner Beaton. 15 yards, keeping their hopes alive. And with just 35 seconds left, it's DuBois up the chute. It's 21-20, so they need the extra point to tie the game. And it's going to be a botched snap. DuBois tries to make some magic happen, but to no avail, so Cheyenne stays ahead. The Mustangs are celebrating, but they're not out of the woods yet. Still 35 seconds left. And look at the onside kick by Dawson Breyer. It rolls past a Cheyenne player. The Bruins fall on it for a little bit of life. Then DuBois completes it to Danny Lahai over the middle, but the clock keeps running and the Bruins don't have any timeouts left. They spike the ball, but the refs ruled that time had expired. Cheyenne hangs on in thrilling fashion for the 21-20 win, clinching a home playoff game next week. They'll play Minot to open the postseason, and they say they'll be ready to go.
It's huge, especially for us seniors getting one more home game at this field before it's all over. It's huge for us. You know, it's a big mentality boost. It's going to make us work harder through the week in practice, and we're just going to come out here next Friday and get after it. We can't let this get to our ego. You know, we can't let this blow up our head. We just got to get in the film room, get in the weight room, get on the practice field, and focus up and execute.
The top-ranked West Fargo Packers on the road to close out the regular season, visiting Davies. The Eagles have that 4 seed locked up, so both teams trying to build some momentum heading into the playoffs. First Packer possession, look up that hole opened up by Ryan Brass and Capay Matati. Alex Sell, 28 yards on the run. Jared Franick finishes off the drive, a 1-yard plunge, standing up at 7-zip West Fargo. Ensuing Davies possession. Sell's going to do it on defense this time. He strips the ball from Cole Haig. The Packers recover as fans rejoice. It was just that kind of night for Fargo Davies. The Packers recover as West Fargo fans pumped up about that one. Later in the first, Andy Grabdahl hits Joe Pistorius on a short out route, but Pistorius tight ropes the sideline and makes it a long play. 67 yards for the touchdown. West Fargo doubles its lead to 14-0. Still in the first, excel in the end zone with ease to make it 21-zip visitors. The Packers have scored 138 first quarter points this season. That's an average of 15 per game. They've been good in the second quarter too. Frantic again. This time, check out the shiftiness, breaking tackles, 24 yards. The score going up like a Powerball jackpot, 27-0. Back to Grabdahl, perhaps your state player of the year candidate. Watch the touch on this ball. Right over the defender to Dustin Mertz. 52 yards on the play. 3 plays later, that frantic guy with another tough run, a wrestling match run. He's into the end zone, his 3rd rushing touchdown of the game just before the end of the half. How about another? Grabdahl's going to throw it to the back shoulder of Tanner Zepeda. 17 yards on the touchdown, makes it 41-0 at half. The Packers win big, 48-8. They look postseason ready. Grabdahl with another efficient game through the air, completing 9 of 12 passes for 195 yards and 2 scores. The Packers will host Legacy for the 2nd year in a row in the quarters after winning a conference title and completing a 2nd straight perfect regular season.
Obviously, it feels great to be EDC champs. You know, that was our #1 goal coming into the season, being that top seed. But what I really felt was great about tonight was that we all came in, you know, we were flying around, we were making plays. And I think this is the best game we've had so far this season. And I really think that that's a great step for us going into the playoffs, and I hope that we continue that down the road.
Well, of course, we really like it. You know, we're playing well, but this doesn't prove anything. According to the last 2 years, I mean, we're not getting where we want to be, but I really think this team can come through this year.
Sounds like a team that hasn't forgot about their 2 semifinal losses to Century each of the last 2 years. That Century team closing out the season against Legacy, the regular season that is. After a couple big defensive stands, the Patriots strike first. The Cade Feeney run sets up Nathan Kraft, stepping into the end zone, makes it 7-0. The Patriots rush for 225 yards in this one. Century threatening to score again when Grant Anderson is sandwiched by Austin Wolf and Gavin Saylor. That jars the ball loose, Sabres recover, but they weren't able to capitalize. Century's defense is just too good. Patriots going to be on the move again. Jacob Olsen, All-State a year ago, hits Casey Foss, who goes inside the red zone. That led to a field goal and a 10-zip Century lead with under 2 minutes left in the first half. Legacy comes right back, taking the kickoff deep into Century territory. Diamante Stugelmeyer. How about that run? Jason Hoekstra hits Austin Wolf, and that's good for 6. Legacy trims the lead to 10-6. Wolf's 11th touchdown of the year. Got his 12th later in the game, but sloppy play was the story of this game. The bad snap here results in a Legacy turnover. Cade Feeney's going to take over at quarterback for the Patriots, and he's going to score on the sneak early in the 3rd to add to the Patriots' lead at 16-6. It takes a while, but it's going to be ruled a touchdown. Century looking good at the Community Bowl. The Patriots on the move again. Feeney, just a sophomore, showing off that big arm. He completes to Jake Zittelman, who had the big game last week with 2 touchdowns. Later in the drive, they give it to Kraft on the toss. He's getting stronger as the season wears on, you guys. Over his last 3 games, he's rushed for 278 yards and 3 touchdowns. The Patriots win it 23-13. Hoekstra ends up with 169 passing yards for Legacy, but he had a tough time against that Century defense that has taken pride all year in slowing teams down.
We really go hard. We try to go hard every single play. You know, we don't like getting points scored off. We try to keep it to at least under 14 points a game. You know, we just gotta keep trying really hard, you know. We just got really good penetration, and we just really kept an eye on our quarterback, you know, backfield in general.
No playoffs for these next 2 teams. They were playing for pride, but they put on quite the show. North at Central. The Spartans go to the air to get on the board for sophomore QB Caleb Friddle. Drops this one in the perfect spot for former starting quarterback Hyatt Martineau, who hauls in the touchdown pass. It turned out to be quite the duo. Nobody scores again until just before the half. Friddle calls his own number on 3rd down, and he's in, making it 14-0 North at the half. The Knights must have had a fire lit under them in the locker room because they look like a completely different team in the second half. They drive 80 yards to get their first score on a Zach Murphy keeper. That cuts the North lead to 14-8. Later in the 3rd, the Knights attack downfield. Murphy with a great pass that hits Zane Miller in stride down at the 10-yard line. Moments later, they finish the drive. Murphy, using his arm again, hits Max Danks across the middle for a touchdown. 13 yards on this one. The home team is fired up. That tied the game at 21-all. Big 4th down play here for the Spartans with 8 minutes to play. Friddle sprints toward the sidelines, then cuts it up and finds the end zone again on the ground. His second rushing score puts North back in front, 27-21. The extra point was blocked. How costly would that prove to be? You're about to see. With under 4 minutes left, Murphy bombs it down the field to Sam Chairless. Watch this juggling catch. This is like Jandy trying to juggle his lines on Varsity Sports Live. Two seniors trying to end their careers on a winning note here. Then on a 4th and 5, we later found out this play wasn't executed the right way, but hey, it worked. Murphy, the fake run, but the pass to Caleb Johnson, who fights his way in. They hit the extra point and win it, 28-27 in his final game. Murphy finishes with over 300 yards of offense and a trio of touchdowns. He ends up rushing for over 1,000 yards on the season, too. And yes, that's a quarterback, and that's dual threat. It was a wild finish to the season, but a great result for the Knights.
At halftime, we made some adjustments on the offensive side of the ball, and I think the big key was when we came out and we got the ball at the beginning of the second half, and we went down and put some points on the board, and I thought that was kind of the turning point. And then throughout the second half, we made some big plays. The kids really stepped up, and some broken plays made some big ones, so it was good to see.
It's something different, I never got to experience this with the other seniors getting, we either lost the last game or the last game was an away game, or, it just unreal feeling being able to win the last game at home. And
good stuff there from Grand Forks Central. Congrats to them. Bismarck, meanwhile, defeats Dickinson 62-26. The Demons look ready for the postseason. They'll host South next week. Mandan finally on the positive end of a close game. The Braves finish with a 15-14 win over Williston. Minot looks ready for the postseason as well. They win over Red River big. In 2A, St. Mary's tops Turtle Mountain to lock up the number 2 seed. The rest of the 2A teams finish the regular season tomorrow. That includes Shanley, who will be the number 1 seed in Class 2A. Shanley looks like a heavy favorite in 2A. West Fargo looks like the heavy favorite in 3A. We'll break down Class A and 9-man later in the show, guys.
It was a fun night of football in North Dakota once again, and the weather was actually pretty decent for once at this time of the year.
Yeah, it has been absolutely beautiful, and we've fought through some rain conditions this year and some chillier conditions on Friday nights, but it was picture perfect. If they can just do this the rest of the way up until we get in the Fargo Dome for the Dakota Bowl, that'd be lovely.
I'm all for it.
All right, well, thanks so much, Jody. When we come back, we have highlights from all the games in South Dakota last night, especially featuring Brandon Valley and O'Gorman. Stay tuned.
Varsity Sports Live on Midco Sports Network is presented by Farmers Union Insurance Agency and South Dakota State University.
Welcome back to Varsity Sports Live. Well, we just showed you the highlights from all over North Dakota, but the South Dakota high school football regular season wrapped up yesterday. So let's talk about the last game of the season, Jandy. I mean, for some teams, they know they're going to the playoffs. It's just a matter of let's finish strong. Other teams, you might win and go to the playoffs, you might lose, and then some teams, they just know their season's over.
That's exactly right. And some teams, suffer injuries in that last game that really affect the next round, and we saw that a couple times over South Dakota. And then some teams, like the game that we're going to talk about here, Brandon Valley and O'Gorman, it was instrumental to be seeded higher. And in this one especially, Brandon Valley and O'Gorman were fighting to be the number 3 seed, which would give them one more week before they would have to face Washington. To start things off, O'Gorman scores on their first drive. Big catch by Max Tibbetts to get them up 7-0. They would add on another field goal to up 10-0, but Brandon Valley in the passing game get back. 7 points there for Cade Tervier, and just 3 plays later, look at this. Canyon Bauer back in the lineup for the first time since September 22nd, and even though he's got 3 screws in his foot, he is able to outrun the Brandon Valley defense, and they take the lead again, but Braden Peterson was just getting started. He gets his first touchdown of the night, puts Brandon Valley within 3 points, 17-14 going into halftime. That would be the score, and the Knights came out of the locker room, got a 65-yard run by Evan Witchery, another 5-yard run for a touchdown right there by Penn Johnson. They go up 24-14, but before I could even get my camera set up, Braden Peterson scampers in from 58 yards, and the very next possession, he does it again. 73 yards this time from scrimmage. This guy is fast. Give him a little crease, he will find a way to the end zone, so back-to-back touchdowns puts Brandon Valley on the top for the first time in the game, 28-24, and he would close this game out by himself. He ran for 340 yards on the night, 5 touchdowns. Gorman tried to get back in the game late with a Canyon Bauer touchdown, but Brandon Valley closed them out, winning 42-30 in a very important game for seeding. They go up and take that 3rd spot, which should buy them one more week before they would have to face a potential Washington game, and that would be all the way until the finals. Let's hear from some of the Lynx after the game.
I feel like that second half is definitely the best half of football us front five has played all year. We really meshed together. We knew coming in they'd be fast, but we just got into them, moved them around, and made some holes for Braden.
We started just hitting things a lot faster. In the first quarter, I was just taking it, first half, I was just trying to juke too much, but then my lineman told me I need to go faster, so I went downhill, and they opened up the holes, and everything started clicking.
Yeah, with Braden, it's like a 200-yard night's a light night for him, so we always try to get him 300 every night and as many touches as we can get.
All right, our next game from Howard Wood Field, Roosevelt and Watertown going at it. It was a pink out for Roosevelt, but first off, number 8, Nick Hoekstra, second play of the game, a 30-yard touchdown catch, and it's 7-0 Rough Riders.
These guys went to Nick Hoekstra early and often. You see him get one touchdown there, but before the first quarter was over, he would have multiple touchdowns. Here's another one.
Yeah, right here, gets it down to we'll see it, 2-yard line, and then he ends up for a 1-yard touchdown. It's 14-0 in favor of Roosevelt.
That's just too easy. And Carter Lohr also running the ball well for them, puts one in. And by the way, folks, this is all first quarter action for these Riders who were walking all over the arrows early on.
But why not give it to Hoekstra again?
Why not?
This time he goes 47 yards right up that sideline for the touchdown run. 28-0.
Huge start for the Riders, and once again, they're rotating their quarterbacks, but one guy that you know they can depend on, Nick Hoekstra, his 4th touchdown of the first quarter. Wow.
Yeah, very impressive in this one.
Here's Tyler Feldkamp, who he's been inserted into the lineup the last few weeks, has given him a real injection of power, and Feldkamp went for 2 touchdowns on the day, and the Riders had a 50-point lead at halftime and cruise in with a 58-16 final. The nightcap, by the way, at Washington, was Washington-Lincoln. Lincoln would need a win in this game to possibly get a playoff spot, and Washington comes in as the number 1 seed.
And guess who we saw running the ball in this one? Just give it a guess, Jandy.
Give it a guess. I'm going to say Zachy Ledoux.
Nope, Tupac Capella.
Oh, of course.
31-yard touchdown run. That puts the Warriors up 7-0 to start off.
Tupac had 2 back-to-back 200-yard games, and this guy right here, Logan Utek, he's all the way back from having his, no spleen in the summer, and he's doing things like this now, just a couple months later.
Flipping into the end zone without a spleen. That's talent right there.
That is talent. Wow.
Oh, my goodness. And then here he is again, number 3, Logan Utek, a touchdown catch, and it's 21-0. That also tied the school record there.
Yeah, he is the all-time leader in not only receptions now, but touchdowns, and the defense had a big game as well. Adam Derland right there gets in for the sack, which created a safety. They went up early, and again, another 50-point cushion by halftime in the nightcap at Howard Wood.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone can beat Washington when it comes to the playoffs. Moving on to our next game. It was a crosstown rivalry. Rapid City Central and Rapid City Stevens. The 2-6 Rapid City Central Cobblers visiting their rivals, but Stevens' offense looked good right away. It was Tegan Heckel to Michael Norman, and then later a toss to Jamin Wirtz to score the first points of the game.
Yeah, they didn't make the extra point for a 6-0 lead, but they got on the board first. The Cobblers, they had to rely on their ground game all through the night, but it was really their defense that kept them in the game early on. Nice play right there by Jordan Ladson on Alex Weaver.
But Stevens got their second touchdown on this pass a few plays later.
There's that
That's
tackle.
the sack. There's the tackle. Here's the touchdown pass a few plays later from Keckel to Norman. That puts the Raiders up 13-0.
I can't talk enough about Michael Norman. This guy's a sophomore, 6'4" receiver, can get downfield, runs great routes, has good hands, good discipline. He's a guy to look forward to watching the next 2 years.
Now this series by Central gets them to the Stevens 5-yard line, but they get stopped, turn the ball over on downs right there. 2 plays later, here's Heckel. Throws the pass, and Carter Deming would take it to the house. 50 yards to make the game 13-7 at halftime.
Carter Deming, a very special, exciting player for Rapid City Central. He's played a lot of different positions, and good for his last regular season game to get a big play like that.
But the second half belonged to Rapid City Stevens. Heckle to Alex Weaver, a 25-yard touchdown pass that makes it 20-7. And then later into the fourth quarter, Branson Cool from 25 yards out, and that makes it 27-7.
Yeah, Tegan Heckle is really winging the ball around much better than he was earlier in the season. And when they play a team like Rapid City Central, they do what they're supposed to do. Took it to the Cobblers, 41-7, and now they are ready to take on Brandon Valley. Have to go across the state, but they are ready, and I think they could be a contender. That could be a really good first-round game in 11 AAA.
Yeah, a lot of momentum coming out of that one. All right, moving on to our next game, Yankton and Harrisburg. An interesting one in 11 AA here, but the scoring started with an early punt by Harrisburg deep in their own territory. The punt didn't take a good bounce, and Josh Galvinhofer grabbed it, took it to the other way for 6. Yankton up right away 7-0. Another crazy play right here. Harrisburg quarterback Troy Knecht is hurried out of the pocket. Yankton D-back Cameron Krejci picks it up. He knows what to do with it. Another return TD. Yankton up 14-0. But Harrisburg decided to get in on the touchdown returns, and they pick one off themselves. Logan Warzecha goes in and takes it back for the touchdown, 14-7.
How about that? The first 3 touchdowns of the game, all either defense or special teams touchdowns. You can't get anything going. Both defenses playing really well. You see Logan Warzecha there making a big play for Harrisburg. They think they're in it at this point, but Yankton would turn on the Jets.
Yeah, we're not done with the crazy plays here, Jandy. Harrisburg punts it into the middle of the line. Rex Reichen recovers it, plows into the end zone.
How about that? Rex Reichen, this guy is a beast. He's just a junior as well. He finds ways to score multiple ways.
And here we go with a traditional touchdown. It's a football game. That's Tate O'Hara, the offensive touchdown with this run. It helps put it kind of out of reach for Harrisburg. And then here we go, Michael Drotzman on the receiving end of this beauty. Somehow comes down with the ball. Yankton Bucks get the big 34-7 win over Harrisburg.
Definitely the biggest surprise for me on this night. Harrisburg has been so up and down this year. We're still waiting for Hunter Headley to come back. He is not quite ready to play. He may be ready to play as early as next week. But Yankton gets a big win at home. Let's hear from Arlen Lickness after the game.
We've always got room to keep working, but this is a nice win. We know we'll be on the road. We need to get our first road win. We haven't won on the road in 2 years. And so that's what we'll be preparing for wherever we go. We need to find out a way to win and to play hard like we do here on the road. And if we can do that, then we'll let it take care of itself.
That just sounds funny. They haven't won on the road in 2 years. We're talking about Yankton here. But here, let's move on to Class 11A.
Yeah, Madison and Dell Rapids. Madison, a very good team. Also, the Courier's a very good team. Madison would find the end zone first. Connections to Jacob Unterbrunner. But a failed 2-point conversion after this. Nevertheless, they get the 6 points. And it would be 6-0 in favor of the Bulldogs.
We don't talk about Unterbrunner enough. We're always talking about the Yankees and Giles, but he's made some big plays over the last couple weeks.
Well, we're about to talk about the Yankees again.
We're about to.
Madison puts up another touchdown. Jackson Yankee, again, a failed 2-point conversion. Still up 12-0 in this one. But don't worry, Dell Rapids, they made a little run. They'd finally get in the end zone. About 7 minutes left in the second half. Matt Galugli doesn't stop. Finally punches it in, and they got the extra point. Didn't even bother with the 2-point conversion. 12-7, still in favor of the Bulldogs.
But Madison, you knew they would come back in this game. You feel like the momentum started to go their way. Dell Rapids kept them close, but here you've got Madison responding with another Jackson Yankee touchdown.
I mean, he and his twin brother, just 2 big targets to go to for Madison.
Nice.
But Dells would have a chance to get on the board before half. We'll see that here. Great student turnout, by the way. Madison's Jarrett Lurs.
Oh, nice play.
An interception, picks it off, and that closes out the half. It would be 18-7 at that point in favor of the Bulldogs.
That was huge because Dell Rapids had a chance to get back in the ball game at that point to make it a 1-score game, and Madison put down the pedal to the metal a little bit. Once again, we see a Jaden Yankee sighting.
Yeah, second half was pretty similar to the first half. Jaden Yankee gets a nice rushing touchdown, extending the lead 24-7.
Then we've got Dell Rapids, again, not giving up at this point, trying to fight their way back into the game.
Yeah, Carson Wentz, not Carson Wentz.
Yes.
Jeffrey Shute.
He's playing Thursday as well.
Exactly.
Oh, he's playing Monday, I'm sorry.
Monday, 24-14, still in favor of Madison. But just like the first half, just as the Couriers do something good, the Bulldogs respond. Jaden Yankee rushes it in again. This touchdown gives him over 1,000 yards rushing on the year. What an accomplishment. And it's 34-12 in favor of Madison.
This is really the first year Jaden Yankee has been the workhorse in the backfield. They've used so many different players to run the ball. Congratulations to him on 1,000 yards.
And then in the fourth quarter, a touchdown by each team. And finally, Madison would cruise to the victory in this one, I guess you could say, even though Dell Rapids did have their moments where they gave them a challenge, but nevertheless, 38-21 in favor of the Bulldogs.
I think the Couriers learned a lot in this meeting, and they're hoping to see the Bulldogs once again, but Madison gets a very important win. Let's hear from them.
It's we've had great. They've all been big games with Dell Rapids, and to finish the season, with them, we saw that early on. We knew it would be a great matchup. Obviously, to come out of here with a win and finish 9-0, we feel great right now. It's it's part of our goals, and we're right on track right now. And we're excited to see where we'll be placed in the playoffs moving forward.
It's very exciting because it was one of our biggest games of the season, the last game of the year for regular season too. So it's just a great feeling to get a good win into the playoffs. We just got to take it one game at a time, just keep working every week, every day of practice, just keep working hard, and hopefully we can make it back to the Dome.
All right, our next game, Dakota Valley at T. Dakota Valley looking to go undefeated on the regular season. I was actually filming this game, so I just want to commend myself on the cinematography here. But a lot of running going on in this game. Austin Carter with a short yard touchdown for Dakota Valley. They're up 7-0.
T has not been able to get an early lead over the last few games when they've kind of hit their mid-season slump. Once again, Dakota Valley strikes first.
And then Dakota Valley would use that momentum. Look what they do here. Just a simple punt return, you would think. A few jukes, a few jabs, and look who is going all the way up the sidelines. It's Nate Rice for 86 yards for the Panthers, and that puts them up 14-0.
That is huge to get special teams plays like that. That really gives the team a boost.
All right, second quarter, Dakota Valley, a 26-yard pass play right here. They'd be on the 3-yard line for the Panthers, and that would set this up. A 3-yard touchdown run.
Yeah, that was Jack McCabe with the big catch there, and then Carter Slykehouse comes back the other direction to get a touchdown for T, trying to keep him in this game. And you see right again, Hunter, the quarterback for T, lofts one up, and a big, big interception. So right when you have them deep in your own territory, Luke Johnson comes up with the big pick.
And a little shaky on the camera work there, but I thought they were going to the back of the end zone.
For those of you at home judging, that is not easy. The focus changes, the lighting changes. Nice job, Bill.
Well, thank you so much, Jandy. All right, more Dakota Valley in this one.
Nate Rice again.
Breaks loose 64 yards. They were really using that ground game in this one. And they cruise. Dakota Valley cruises to a 35-6 win, improved to 9-0 in the regular season.
And they get to play a home game against Pine Ridge, and then you see T Area, who just a couple weeks ago were number 2 in the polls. Now they have a road game against Madison. That is going to be tough for T Area to advance.
Let's hear from the coach and one of the players.
We were super aggressive early in the game, and that just declared what was going to happen the rest of the game, and we came out fired, and that worked for us.
Nothing we can worry about, or we can control what we can control, and that isn't something we can control. They weren't on our schedule, and we don't know what they have. They don't know what we have, and hopefully we'll get to play them.
This is the ball-out champion belt. So if you create a turnover, have a pick, or force a fumble, you're the ball-out, what we call a champion. So we hand out a belt.
I had to ask him about the ball-out belt. I was wondering what it was for.
By the way, the coach, Vandenholt, was referring to playing or being overshadowed by Madison, and he says, hopefully we get a chance to play them. So
all right, next up, St. Thomas More and Todd County. Right away, Jake Larson runs in to get the Cavaliers on the board.
Here's the Falcons, though. Todd County responding with some power running. People wonder if their record is legit or not because of their competition. they've got some players who can really move the pile, and you see them moving down the field this time. This time they cash in with a William Marshall 10-yard touchdown run. Falcons would go for 2, but they would fail. That's 7-6 at that point, but a lot of Cavaliers after that. I think we got Ryder Kirsch there going to Shea Casey for a big pickup. Ryder Kirsch was our game ball winner this week, and he kind of showed why. He is spreading the ball all over the field. I talked to Wayne Sullivan this week. He said he's done a great job as a sophomore to come in, not as a starter at the beginning of the season, but has come in and really made some good plays for St. Thomas More. A few nice defensive plays for Todd County, but it would not be enough because after we left to go shoot the Rapid City Stevens and Central game, it got out of hand. The Cavaliers rolled in this one. Kirsch went 11 of 13, 242, and 5 touchdowns, 70-32 win. Let's move on to some 9-man football, I believe. It's time for that. No, we got one more in 11-man football. This is Sioux Falls Christian taking on Canton. Now, these two teams have faced each other one time earlier this season, but that was a close game as well. Canton actually got out to a 4-0 lead. In this one, Evan Schroedermeyer catches one in the flats and takes it up the field, and Canton leading 7-0 to get this thing started. Surprising Sioux Falls Christian a little bit, getting them on their heels, and this would continue. But you know that Parker Nelson is going to make some plays, and that he did. You give him a little crease, he will find a way to the end zone, one of the fastest players in all of 11B. And then Canton coming back, still keeping the lead. Once again, you see Schroedermeyer pound one in, and they've got a 19-15 lead. Sioux Falls Christian working their way back into this one. What do? You give it to Parker Nelson, and he finds his way into the end zone. Great block by their center, much like Jody Norstedt used to block in high school. And by the way, a field goal right there ties the ball game up 22-22 now, and that's the way it would end at the end of the fourth quarter. Both teams figuring out how are we going to make this happen in overtime. Canton had the first opportunity. They've got a good kicker, but this one just misses. They had to look at that one close. Sioux Falls Christian had a chance. You see them bowl it in from the 1, cannot quite get it on 3rd down. That would set up a 4th down try, and it is a quarterback sneak. He actually fumbles the ball. His knee was down, but he fumbled the ball and recovered it in the end zone. So it takes the referees a while here to decide, was that a touchdown or not? And finally, they
Don't ruin it, Danny. Don't ruin it.
It's
you're spoiling it.
Did they win or not?
They're talking about where they're getting dinner.
They're discussing. He fumbled
there
the football, and he recovered it in the end zone for a touchdown. And Sioux Falls Christian gets the exciting victory in overtime, and they go crazy as the number 2 seed in their region and now the number 2 seed overall. You see Parker Nelson's 224-yard day with 2 touchdowns. Huge part of that, but Canton really came up and played some defense. We talked to Jake Pettengill after the game about that crazy finish.
Because we thought he got in on the play before, and we were not sure what that looked like. Apparently he didn't get in on the play before, but he said, I went up to ask him, and Dawson's a pretty honest guy. He said the ball was across the plane when I picked up. Doesn't matter if his knee was on the ground, it was across the plane in his hands. That was a crazy game. Canton came out to play. They're well coached. They adjusted. They were probably the better team tonight.
Oh man, that is a lot of pressure to go through in the first round of the playoffs. Let's go move to Howard now, where Chester area takes on the Tigers. Tigers favored to win in this one, but Chester kept it close. Howard, as usual, running the football. It was Michael Hofer to get things started, and they cap it off with a nice run. It's Kramer who hands it off to Hofer and finishes his own drive off, and they get a nice 6-0 lead. They wouldn't make it on the 2-point conversion. But as advertised, the defense came up big for Howard once again. Kramer, this one's Kramer to Reisdorfer once again, and Reisdorfer finds a crease. Once again, this Howard Tiger team, I thought it was going to be all about the Michael Hofer show this year, but Reisendorfer has played well. They've gotten so many players like Mitchell Kramer making big plays, but Michael Hofer really turned in a huge performance once again for the Howard Tigers. One more touchdown right there. That time it looks like, I'm not sure who that was. I think it was Ethan Kramer, though, who scores that touchdown. And then Alex Tamman for Chester comes back down and makes a play. Once again, not enough for this Chester area team to advance. And although Howard is was tested in this one. They came out with a nice 42-15 win to move on in the Class 9A playoffs, playing Avon next week.
More great momentum heading into the playoffs.
More momentum.
More momentum. All right, moving on to our next game. It's Corsica-Stickney and...
I think this is Baltic Arlington, actually.
Baltic and Arlington Lake Preston.
And I feel bad right now because our photographer Jason Trent got to this game at halftime. It was 18-0 at the half. He shot the entire second half, and there were no scores at all. But we have a lot of great defensive plays to show you. And right there you see Colby Malsom with the big interception in the end zone to prevent them. Huge sack by Tyler Jensen of Arlington Lake Preston. And really that's what it was all about. Defensive pressure by this Badgers team. And even though both teams had opportunities in the second half, none could cash in. And right there, this is interesting, a big kick return by Gavin Holland. He did not signal a fair catch. The defense thought maybe he was already down, but actually runs this one out and gets a huge gain. Again, it wouldn't matter because 18-0 ends up being the final score for the Badgers, holding on to that lead throughout the entire second half.
That's impressive. Defense wins championships, Jandy.
Well, we'll see if they can get to a championship. It'll be tough next week at Miller Highmore Herald, that's for sure.
That is tough.
One more, Corsica-Stickney.
Well, we had to do a lot of different things to find out what worked. You know, they ran a 3-front, 4-front, blitzed a lot, and so took a while to find a groove, but finally we kind of settled in there.
I thought our line played really good, and just good sound defense, I thought. They played hard the whole game. We played hard, and that was the key, I think.
I think that I don't think I can explain how much a home field means to us and probably every other team, so it's nice to be at home.
Good home win for the Badgers. They now move on to the road to play the rest of their 9-man playoff.
Yeah, beautiful sunset tonight for Corsica-Stickney and Harriet Selby, but Jaguars...
Begeman brothers, by the way, in case you didn't know.
Oh, that's true. Jaguars will return the opening kick for a touchdown. You talk about throwing the first punch. They did it right there. But then Bryce Plamp with a nice gain sets up the Jaguars in the red zone, and Cordell Menning punches it in. Jaguars are up 16-0 late in the first quarter. But on the next series, Wade Begeman, one of the brothers, scrambles to find Carson Vandervorst. A nice gain sets up the Begeman QB keeper coming up on our next one. And that gets the Wolverines on the board. They're trailing 16-6 early in the second quarter after this quarterback keeper. But after the Wolverines score, it would be all Corsica-Stickney in this one for the rest of the way. Bryce Plamp finding daylight on a trap play, taking it to the house.
They just wear you down. Corsica-Stickney is just much bigger across the line and even in their backfield than anybody else in this class. That's why they are undefeated. And you see Blake Moki who finds Kason Eide for one more touchdown. Eide, not one of the bigger guys on the team, but the rest of this team, they just wear you out and take over in the second half.
Yeah, that puts the Jaguars up 42-6. They go on to win this one big, 56-6.
Well, we got a lot more stuff to talk about, including some games that we didn't get footage of. Aberdeen Central, a dramatic win on the last play of the game to beat Pierre in that game. Peyton Zabel came out in the fourth quarter due to a shoulder injury, so Aberdeen Central gets a good win there. Doesn't affect seeding for either one. West Central, by the way, won 45-21, but were the last team not to make the playoffs in 11A, and I can't remember the last time West Central has not made the playoffs. I honestly cannot remember. It may be the first time ever.
Wow.
Parkston and Irene Mukanda expect this to be a good game. Irene Mukanda and Trey King came out with a big performance, and Miller Highmore Herald behind quarterback Karst Hunter put up 44 points to beat Webster area.
Yeah, you talked about them. They're a tough team heading into the playoffs.
They've played a really tough schedule, that's for sure.
All right, well, we got to most of the games.
We do, but we've got a lot more analysis coming up to see what's coming up not only next week, but this weekend.
All right, stay tuned on Varsity Sports Live.
Varsity Sports Live on Midco Sports Network is presented by Farmers Union Insurance Agency and South Dakota State University.
Welcome back to Varsity Sports Live. Well, we just showed you all the highlights from around South Dakota. Now we're going to hear from the coaches, see what they had to say. But before we do that, Jan, do you want to talk a little bit about Chad Garrow?
I do. I want to talk about Chad Garrow because he's really led his team in the right direction for Brandon Valley throughout this season. From that opening day loss to Washington to where they're at now has really been a huge climb. And after the game that they beat O'Gorman, they secured a number 3 spot, which is really huge for this Brandon Valley team. Let's hear from Chad Garrow after the game last night.
We felt good about the things that the running plays that we ran in the first half and stuff. So then we're just going to come back and hit those, and Braden hit some. I mean, the offensive line did a great job, got a body and a body, and then once he gets through there, it's just gone. So.
It's just gone. 340 yards gone. He had a huge night on the last game of his regular season.
Yeah, that Brandon Valley line is impressive. Really accelerating the run game.
Boys.
But also, we have Jody Norstedt back with us from North Dakota. Hi, Jody. What do you have for us up there?
Yeah, I feel like I could take a nap while you guys were doing those South Dakota highlights.
Yeah, there's a lot going on down here.
Well, I remember way back at the beginning of the year, the question was, how will West Fargo handle the loss of 2 Division I athletes on that offensive line and a Division II running back and linebacker to graduation? Boy, so much for that being an issue. The Packers are your EDC champs, heavy favorites to win their first state title since 2003. The head coach, Jay Gibson, understandably proud of his perfection this season on the regular season record.
I think there's something etched in them that they want to prove that they're a really good football team. So I don't know if it has anything to do with the losses. I just think it's the way it should be. You go out for football and you pay your $60 participation fee, and you want to get the best out of your $60, and we have so far.
Oh, that's a great soundbite. Well, it seemed like a weekly question for us at Midco Sports Network. Who's the best team in the West? How foolish of us. The 2-time defending state champs from Century may have dropped the first game of the regular season, but went on to win the rest of them, including Wednesday's victory over Legacy. As you saw in the highlights, the Patriots weren't very sharp against the Sabres, so head coach Ron Wingenbach wants to get his team refocused before next week.
If you look at the penalty totals, we're probably nearing 100 yards in penalties, and we put the ball on the turf a few times tonight, and that's uncharacteristic of us. So we just got to get back to playing Century football, and we'll have a couple of 2 or 3 days to think about it and get ready to go. Well, we came out relatively injury-free, so I think that's the one thing that we wanted to make sure that we get into the playoffs next Friday night, and we want all of our guys ready to go.
So the AAA bracket is set. Here's a look. West top seed Century will host Davies. They just played a good one 2 weeks ago with the Patriots holding on for a 38-25 win. That could be an interesting matchup if the Eagles' passing game is able to get hot again. Cheyenne will welcome Minot to town. It'll be the first meeting between those two since the Magicians beat Cheyenne in the state semifinal in 2015. The top-ranked Packers will be a heavy favorite against Legacy in the quarters for his second straight year. And Fargo South travels to Bismarck for a date with the Demons. Bismarck won the regular season contest 41-14. The Class 2A field will be set after tomorrow. We do know that Shanley and St. Mary's will have the top 2 seeds in that one. We'll catch you up on all that next week. As for Class A, here's a look at the top half of the playoff bracket. Hillsboro Central Valley earns the number 1 seed and will host West Hope Newburgh Glenburn. Trinity got that 4 seed. Delax Burlington and Kildare square off. Those are some teams with recent Dakota Bowl experience. On the bottom half of the bracket, unbeaten Velva earns the number 2 overall seed after allowing a total of 26 points all season. Langdon area Edmore Munich is the number 3 and will host last year's 2A runner-up Kindred. That might be a good one. To preview these games in the bracket and 9-man, we rewind to earlier this week when 740 The Fans, Brad Anderson and Chase Miller joined me in studio. Here's a look at what they thought about the playoff fields beginning with Class A.
I would say Hillsboro Central Valley on the top half of the bracket. They've been so impressive throughout the year, Jody, that I think that win over EEK really cemented it, but they've just kind of steamrolled everybody in their path. I know you've been big on Langdon area Munich, in that bottom half of the bracket. I'm a little bit surprised they got that number 3 seed, but they've been, Delvo at quarterback and Peebles and Economy. I mean, those are guys that have put up some big numbers.
It's hard not to go against, Hillsboro Central Valley. Their front 7 defensively, they don't allow you to get to the second level, and offensively, I don't know if I've seen a better offensive line in Class A. So we'll see what they can do there. Don't overlook Velva. Their defense is stout. Maybe they play in a weaker region than maybe Hillsboro Central Valley or EEK team, but the Aggies are definitely got a lot of tradition in high school football.
Well, let's transition to 9-man. And guys, how about this nugget? Out of the top 8 teams in the top half of them were ranked in the top 5 of the final 9-man poll. One of the matchups, Cavalier against Thompson, 1 versus 4 in the state, and a rematch of the season opener, which the Tornadoes won 28-24. What's your biggest storyline heading into the east half of the state in 9-man?
Well, it's hard to believe that matchup is so early in the playoffs. I mean, it's interesting that they played early on. Thompson got off to a slow start, and they made a run late but ended up falling short. It's hard to believe a matchup that probably could be maybe to go to the Dakota Bowl ends up being that early on. I think that's a very interesting matchup. Winery-Lidgewood's an interesting story. They've got 13 seniors. And nobody really stands out more than the other. I think they've been very solid.
And I think on the western side, New Salem, Glen Ullin, and alongside Shiloh Christian, I think those are your 1-2 punch on the western.
And all of that fun begins tomorrow, guys. We'll have our cameras out at several of the games from New Salem to Cavalier. We'll have you covered on a busy Saturday of high school football.
That's a lot of expertise to jam into a couple of minutes. I learned a lot. Thank you, Jody.
Thank you, Jody. Bet. All right, well, coming up after the break, we have the rundown, top play from all of our games in the Dakotas. So stay tuned. A lot of exciting stuff coming up next. Welcome back to Varsity Sports Live. Kelly Stewart talking high school football with Jason Andera. We've had a lot of exciting action across the Dakotas this week. I mean, heading into the playoffs, some really good stuff. But should we take a look at the rundown, JD?
Let's take a look at the rundown. Some excellent, exciting action. They'll start in North Dakota on Wednesday night when AAA ended their season. A botched extra point cost Fargo South a chance at overtime and gives West Fargo Cheyenne the win. And of course, everybody expected this, but West Fargo gets the win to stay at number 1 in the East region, while Fargo Davies is already locked in at number 4. Century continues their dominance in the WDA, 23-13 win over Legacy, and in a game that didn't really matter in the standings, you can tell it mattered to Grand Forks Central, getting a home win for the seniors on their last game on Cushman Field. Into South Dakota now. I think Braden Peterson's still running somewhere. He's got 35 carries, 340 yards, 5 touchdowns against the O'Gorman Knights. Huge win for the Lynx, securing a number 3 spot. And speaking of still running, I think Nick Hoekstra is still running at Howard Wood Field, where he piled up 4 touchdowns in 1 quarter to give the Roosevelt Rough Riders a big win. Washington completes their undefeated season. Great interception by Logan Utek, who dives into the end zone. Oh, I hope he's safe. He is. He would continue that game and score 2 more touchdowns after that. And in the Battle of Rapid City Schools, Michael Norman hauls one in for Rapid City Stevens. Tegan Hegel and company with a 41-7 win as they go on the road next week to play in they're the number 5 seed. We'll look that up later.
Yeah.
But Yankton, an impressive home win, 34-7 over Harrisburg. They're moving in the right direction, while Harrisburg lost a few coming down the end of this season, but I think they'll be all right. Number 3 seed. And then Madison, they go undefeated on the year, breaks Dell Rapids' winning streak. Lost the first game of the year and lost the last game of the year. And then Dakota Valley, a big pick 6 when T was trying to get back into this ball game. The Panthers also undefeated in 11A, 35-6 win over T area. And out west, Todd County was trying to prove that they belong as one of the top teams in that conference. Well, St. Thomas More blew up in the second half. Huge game for Kirsch at quarterback, Ryder Kirsch, in a 70-32 win. And then an overtime win for Sioux Falls Christian. They get in on a very, very late call, but get the overtime victory over Canton. Howard in 9-man football looking good over Chester, 42-15 on the win. Harriet Selby trying to challenge Corsica-Stickney, but Corsica-Stickney, that should be reversed there. Corsica-Stickney glides by with a 56-6 win. And then Arlington Lake Preston holds off Baltic in the second half, getting an 18-0 victory. Nice win for Arlington Lake Preston.
Oh my goodness. Well, an exciting way to end the regular season.
This is the time of the year I love, Kelly. So much good stuff. Teams are changing just a little bit, but you think you kind of know where these teams are heading in the next week or so.
You do, but it's kind of like March Madness, except it's in the fall. So looking to the playoffs, Jandy, I mean, what are you really expecting?
Well, some keys here are injuries. Hunter Headley has gone the last few weeks not quarterbacking Harrisburg. They've been up and down since he's been out of the mix. He's expected to come back. You saw Canyon Bauer come back from injury for O'Gorman. He made a huge impact with 2 touchdowns. They couldn't get it done defensively. He only played on offense, didn't play defense. So I think he's a huge impact player to watch over the next couple weeks. And how about Peyton Zabel? Had to come out of the game in the fourth quarter for Pierre and couldn't make the comeback. Aberdeen Central got a home win against Pierre, who's still the #1 seed, but that's a lot of injury concerns coming up in the next week.
Yeah, we just hope these guys heal up. That's never, I mean, it can be a split second. All of a sudden they're out of the game.
Hope they're all okay.
Nevertheless, a lot of teams really picking it up, setting it up for a great playoff slate in both Dakotas. Thanks for watching Varsity Sports Live.